great, but because the sound was so well done.
I actually really enjoyed Yorma Tacone as Chaka.
Really? That was one of the things I really, like, I don't want to say offensive, but it just really bugged me that they like, hey, we got Chaka, and now we're going to make him completely different than the other Chaka.
I liked what they did with this Chaka because I always hated, even as a kid, I hated Chaka.
Well,
Chaka,
what's the difference?
Well, the original Chaka was he was a child, he was an idiot, and he always got into trouble. While he was crafty and useful sometimes, he was really just kind of a moron that got everybody into trouble.
Oh, he's my nephew.
He was the nephew, he was the Scooby-Doo, he was the, he always did stupid things that caused trouble for everyone. This Chaka, he's a crafty monkey character. He's almost kind of got some monkey goddish things going on. He's
an
of
asshole.
his people, and he's an asshole. Rick Marshall kind of pisses him off early on, and he fucks with him throughout the film. Now, he's genuine at some points, but he's kind of a douche, and I found that funny.
Make it sound like he's sitting there like stealing stuff and masturbating and throwing shit at people when they walk into the room.
Yeah. I thought you didn't see it.
It's PG-13, but it kind of hints at that kind of...
I can see why you say he's the best character, because let's look what he's going up against. First, you have Will Ferrell playing Will Ferrell. Then you have Danny McBride playing Danny McBride.
Well, he's a toned down Danny McBride.
And then you have the chick from Pushing Daisies. I forget the actress's
Hey,
name.
she's only there so they can grab her boobs.
That's all. The only reason she's there.
No,
she has nothing to do except for occasionally
Nope.
issue a little bit of exposition, and that's it.
That's actually, she's there. In fact, this is one of the problems with the film. She's there to ground the other two man-children because we have three main characters, two of which are dueling man-childs. And we've got the Hick man-child, and then we've got the Will Ferrell man-child. And she's the one that has to sit there and kind of grab him by the ears and say, no, the plot is this way.
Except she doesn't really do that.
Well, no, she does, but it's not done particularly well. They don't give her anything to really work with. But she's supposed to be grounding the film to keep the adventure there, but they're just not doing a great job.
No, I agree that's how the character should have been written. I just think I think you're saying exactly what I'm saying. She was supposed to do something, and then she never really does, and so her only thing is to have her boobs grabbed and to occasionally deliver a little bit of exposition.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Well, it's like, okay.
It's not as tittillating as you think.
Yeah, it's not. You're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not even sure why you're here, but
And
all
the
right.
actress's name is Anna Friel.
Thank you.
Whatever.
Although the actor,
She's Chuck from Pushing Daisies.
the CG people who did the T-Rex did a good job making that T-Rex have lots of good expressions because it's a smart T-Rex in here.
Sure.
And that would have been a clever gimmick if they had writers, but the CG people thought they did because they did a great job animating it.
Yeah, Will Ferrell screams a lot and ad-libs, but none of it really connects. That's the problem.
Yeah,
there's a bunch of scenes, bunch of little pieces, and yet none of it really connects. And by the end, it just seemed like they just wrote it like, well, let's end it here. Let's just come up with something and end it.
It's funny when you describing a hairy idiot that throws shit at people. I thought you were describing Will Ferrell at first. Because that's all he does, all the time.
It reminds me of the Saturday Night Live formula for so many movies, where it's a series of very disconnected sketch ideas that get thrown together onto a theme, and they don't really ever bother to completely tie them together.
Right.
Some stand out almost to an embarrassing level. You're like, what was the point of that? And some make you kind of chuckle.
It's
and
funny.
then there's action set pieces that are just borrowed whole hog from other movies.
Yeah.
They set up a really great sequence where these small dinosaurs kind of come in and they're waiting on next to their raft, and then an ice cream truck shows up. But then it just turns into a Jurassic Park 3 moment, and or not 3, which. I forget which Jurassic Park. With all the velociraptors running around.
The one with the dinosaurs.
No, the one
Which
with the
one was
velociraptors running around in the
That was 3.
yeah.
But see, that's what even with the best review, you know what this movie sounds like? It sounds like, okay, as long as we have the visuals of a slee stack, a big dinosaur, and a bunch of rocks, we got Land of the Lost. Everything else doesn't matter.
It's a bunch of touchstones. The best thing about it is the stuff that kind of the old series touched on. And this, we're like, wow, you got so much stuff you could do here. And they don't really, which is the idea that this is kind of a crossroads between all the dimensions. And so there's little bits you're like, oh, that's cool. Look, what are they going to do here? And then nothing really.
Yeah, it's like if somebody had came in while they were making it, said like, well, you guys, this isn't really like the Land of the Lost TV show. They would have said like, yeah, but that TV show was dumb. Get the sand out of your vagina. Come on, we're just trying to make a comedy here. And it just felt like they did that the entire time.
Yeah.
They just didn't, for all the talk of how much they loved and respected it, they had none.
Yeah, because for years, I have said, wow, you know what? If anything deserves a remake or deserves to be a movie from a television show, it's Land of the Lost.
And it still does.
Yes, it does. That's
Maybe
what I'm
one
saying.
day somebody will do it.
And then can you imagine like saying like, out of all this bullshit that they're making, Land of the Lost, that's what they should do. Let's see, Will Ferrell, fuck. All right.
But
Well,
I'll tell you
have to get
something,
that
though. I was sitting next to Giovanni, Harry Knowles' 8-year-old nephew. And throughout the entire film, he was hypnotized. He just kept going, cool.
Yeah, he's
cool.
8.
Yeah,
But hear me out. No, I'm saying that he loved it from beginning to end, and he immediately went up to his uncle afterwards and asked to borrow the TV series, which he has on DVD. So he went home with the DVD series so that he's going to sit down and now watch all of these Land of the Lost. It gives us an excuse to have it put out on DVD again, and kids are going to get to rediscover it the same way we did. Because I think we were all part of that generation that grew up watching it on Saturday mornings, just couldn't wait till Land of the Lost came on because it was the best thing. Well, everyone but you.
Yeah, I know. I was like, God
He
damn
was
it.
looking at me
I hate to say this because I know what it opens me up to, but I guess because I was older than you guys, I watched it, but I only watched it because it came on so late that all the other cartoons were off.
Well,
and it was like the only show in between, the last cartoon and Soul Train.
Well, come on. Yeah.
Train.
But I was old enough to watch and go like, man, this is a piece of
Well,
shit.
come on, man. When you've seen real dinosaurs, I mean, what's this going to do for you? You know? Shit.
Are we really going there? Okay, I'll join in. What were they like?
I mean, come on. Even you guys got to admit that you're like, this show was less realistic than the Flintstones.
Yeah.
Well, Flintstones should have better special effects.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, somewhere Will Ferrell's going, it's a living. But
It's funny because it has such a 8-year-old, mentality to it, and yet I found parts of it like really raunchy. Like I don't know that I would necessarily want to take an 8-year-old
it's
to see
PG-13.
it. Yeah.
which is kind of defeats the point there, because if only 8-year-olds are going to like it, then hey, you're screwed. But it's funny because watching this, I'm going, man, I did used to really like that original show, and I've rewatched it not that long ago and go, yeah, the effects are terrible, the acting is maybe the worst in the history of television, but there are some great story ideas here, and
Sure.
even some decent scripts. I'd like to see a serious version of this where, and then I thought back to Lost in Space, the movie, where they went, let's make a serious movie out of this old bad television show. And I shut my mouth.
You know what? Excellent point, Mr. Cyrus.
No, I have to say you make a very fine case there.
Who would think to put Matt LeBlanc in a serious movie and then set off fireworks that look like Daffy Duck?
Wow, they did that.
Yeah, that was in Lost in Space.
Well, see, I saw it the once.
Yeah, I know, me too. I don't even remember that. I forgot Matt LeBlanc was in it.
Well, it's funny because when you have a show like Land of the Lost, I mean, there's certain things that fit because the special effects aren't that great. So when you got the Sleek Stack come out, you're kind of like, damn, those are the best looking things in the show. But when you make a movie like this where you have these new special effects and then you introduce the Sleek Stack, all of a sudden it looks fake. And at this point, you could have had a brother come out in an alligator suit,
No, see, this is why I've got my hand up, dude. Seriously, the Slee Stacks in this look awesome. They do something that they were never able to do in the show.
They blink.
Dude, when they open their mouth and they've got those several rows of teeth that are chomping and they're all coming at, they made the Slee Stacks look cool. And that was the one thing where I was like, okay, that's really neat. They took something neat and made it even neater.
All
That's
right.
the one thing.
Yeah, they don't look bad.
Well, I
said the
got
effects weren't bad.
I got to say, I'm out of line here because all I've seen is a Subway commercial. A Slee Stack buying a $5 footlong ain't really that threatening. So
The effects weren't bad, but so what? This isn't an effects movie. It's not. I mean, there was a point though where we're watching it and they're like out in these plains, and I realized there's supposed to be a volcano in the background. And it's the worst matte painting you've ever seen. And it's only because there's so much shit going on in the foreground that they expect, no one's even going to pay attention to that. But I mean, it's awful. It's like it looks like a child's watercolor.
Really, like Sun had a smiley face on it.
I was about to say, you see a kid come down like that's his science project, the volcano.
Right.
You see him putting flour into the volcano and it bubbling up. And
That
he's
must
like,
have been I think that was the real director.
One thing else I would say about the pre-show, one thing that I start to notice, I don't know if it's every time, but whenever they do the Q&A before the movie, it seems like the movie sucks. It's almost like they just want we don't want anybody to ask us why do we make such a bad movie. So let's just get this out of the way. And even Marty Krofft said hey, if you don't like this movie, keep your mouth shut.
Because even he watched it probably went,
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys
That's
something.
better than Puffin stuff.
Oh, I can't wait for that movie. Which they will make one day, I guarantee you.
They just signed the deal for it
with
this
Sony,
week.
yeah.
It's-
Will Ferrell.
No,
No, I'm kidding.
Eddie Murphy is
Adam
Puffin
Sandler.
Stuff.
Yeah, it'll be Seth Rogen.
Yes, Seth Rogen as Puffin Stuff.
Hey, Billy.
Hey, now hold on. Seth Rogen as Puffin stuff actually sounds cool.
That makes sense. Puff and
Hey,
stuff.
Chuck,
Man,
Puff
anybody
and
else
stuff.
want a pizza? I'm hungry.
Pineapple Express wasn't enough.
Oh, all you got to do is paint that dude orange or yellow, and
There
you
you
can,
go.
you got him. That's
Yeah.
you save tons on special effects alone right there.
Fucking Drug-a-Cheez-Its. I'm
Yeah,
telling you
drug
what.
it. Yeah, give his ass a joint and paint him yellow. That's Puffin Stuff right there. Now, he's always I'm coming around. He's always loving everything. I was going to say, no. Carlisle has said a lot of good things about this, and he's also said some negative things about it. So far, you guys have just said a bunch of negative things about the movie. Is there any good things about it? That you,
Well, I started out saying the first 3 minutes were funny because I'd heard bad things
3
about
minutes?
this before I went. But yeah, it's got an opening like the very premise of it with Will Ferrell and Matt Lauer, going at it with each other and all that. I was like, man, you know what? This is making me laugh, and this might turn out to be pretty good after all. But my hopes get torpedoed pretty quickly. I mean, really, it's that first 3 minutes and everything after that. I didn't like anything about it.
so pretty much
that.
after the opening credits, it goes downhill.
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking of opening credits, the end credits I thought looked fantastic, and that music's playing. And I thought to myself, you know what? If I was coming to see something else and walked in and just saw the credits rolling up and saw that background with that music,
You would have been excited.
I'd have been excited, been like, "Oh, I think I want to see this movie."
Well, like we said, the
do
score,
not fall into that trap.
The score was excellent. I personally thought the effects, like the CG effects, mind you, were pretty good. All the practical effects looked horrible. They just cheesy, bad job on them. Like Volcano matte painting, I present for your perusal, Your Honor. But yeah, most of the jokes fell flat. 99% of them. Every once in a while, I'd chuckle a little bit. There's a wrap up to the Matt Lauer thing that's kind of funny at the end.
Kinda.
But even then, by then, you're just kind of like throw your hands up, like, all right, I just want this to end so I can go home and have more beer.
Okay, so what would you guys give it then?
Oh, some old bullshit for me.
Really?
Yeah, it's clear cut.
Wow. I thought you weren't decided when I talked to you before, but I'm going with low rental.
I
on
had a
this.
little bit more time to think about it.
All right, fair. So,
So
did
what
I.
do you- so
low
what do you-
rental for me, it's like I can see that if you're just sitting at home and you can pause it, get up and take a shit when you need to, then great. But,
Or don't pause it and go take that shit.
don't pause it. If it starts to look really lame, it probably is going to. So.
Or go take a shit and watch that instead of this movie.
There you go.
I loved it, loved it, loved it. No, this is a matinee. It's fun. I enjoyed watching it. I don't think I'm not going to give it a strong recommendation to anybody that you need to go out and check it out. It's not a movie that if you loved it as a kid that is going to really pay off. But Will Ferrell made me laugh, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sitting there. I was never really bored. I just got a little. Some of the sequences got long in the tooth, but ultimately. It was worth checking out at a theater matinee.
Okay. Fuck 'em, what can you say?
We used it all up.
You realize what this means?
Yes! Matt Lauer can suck it!